is going on, fantasy football universe? Welcome to the semifinals edition of the game plan. Of course, I'm your host, Matty Kiwoom, and we are grinding it out. We are game planning to record some W's, some victories here in week 16, or as the boys and girls of fantasy football know it as, the fantasy football semi-finals. There are a lot of Final Four matchups being decided today, and we are going to go through some rankings. We are going to dive into this week in WoRP, and then I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm going to go ahead and give my Kiwoom call of the week. I'm over, and I'll wear it. I'll wear it. The process is there. I believe in the process, and when you believe in the process, eventually you get the results. So there will be a time, I'm thinking it's this week, where my Kiwoom call of the week comes to fruition. There's another factor that I haven't really spoken to when it comes to the Kiwoom call of the week, but it was so bad. It never worked. It was like a jinx. I tried to jinx actually my opponents in my home league. It didn't work last week. Actually, no, wait. I got it right last week. Devontae Adams went berserk. I just realized I did. All right, so we're on the board. So we're back. We're going to go through it today. It's going to be a great episode. And I see some people in the chat. Castle Black, happy Sunday, everybody. Let's get in those finals. Hell yes. Dynasty Berry is in the chat. What's going on, DB? Gooner Boy, morning, Marty. Come on, bro. Just kidding. Good morning, Matty. Autocorrect. I get that a lot. Marty and Matty, they, for whatever reason, it just never goes. Eli's in the chat. What's going on, Eli? Good morning to you as well. And Redwoods, my guy, Ryan, what is going on? Top of the morning to you as well. Let's get some dubs. There's a lot of big matchups this week, obviously, in the semifinals. There's a lot of championships that are about to take shape. Unlike most weeks in the fantasy football season, we have a lot to go off. I mean, we had a Thursday night game that showed, Cortland Sutton not really have a big game, but the quarterbacks did well. If you played Devon Bailey, which I doubt you did, why would you? He had a pretty good game. And then yesterday, it was a lot of Derrick Henry, the usual suspects, Derrick Henry, Lamar, Zay Flowers. They all played well. Kelsey, my man, way to completely let us down. And you know what's going to make this thing worse about this whole Travis Kelsey fall off when you needed it most? Is for a fact when the playoffs roll around, the NFL playoffs, he's going to have probably back-to-back 10-catch, 150-yard games, couple touchdowns. He's going to go berserk. But he couldn't do that for us. Killed us. Matter of fact, that game was really bad for a lot of reasons. And, of course, our prayers, our thoughts go out to Tank Dell with that gruesome knee injury. If you haven't seen, I don't recommend looking up. One of those stomach turners for sure. And he's still in Kansas City, I believe, and we wish him as much of a recovery as he can potentially get. So we're thinking about you, Mr. Nathaniel Tank Dell, because that was awful. And, you hate to see a guy go down with that type of injury. But in terms of fantasy, even Nico Collins didn't really fire all that well. Joe Mixon, back-to-back duds in fantasy football playoffs. But that's all in the past. We're looking ahead. We're game planning for the future. You can't game plan for the past. You can just bask in it and revel in it. We're not doing that. We're cutting ties. We're moving forward. So if you have any questions, any concerns, any type of lineup decisions, roster decisions, doesn't matter, leave it in the chat and we'll make sure we get to it. And if you want to cut the line, get to the front of the line, of course, we love them super chats here at South Harmon. You can drop a super chat and get yourself to the tippity top of the line. But I will do my best to help you game plan for week 6. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into a little bit of rankings talk here. And we're going to start with a couple of quarterbacks that I did not think I would be potentially relying on here in the fantasy football semifinals, but that's the nature of the beast. That is the nature of the beast. And the first quarterback that I want to talk about today, Cooper Rush. So Cooper Rush, I have him at QB 14 in my Week 16 ranks. And if you want to get access to the Week 16 ranks, you can head over to southharmonff.com. We have our weekly ranks there, and you can become a member of the community and get access to the rankings, the WoRP tools, the Cuck score, all that good stuff over at patreon.com/South Harmon. But in terms of Cooper Rush, I have him in the Aaron Rodgers, even Jared Goff range, believe it or not. And you're saying, Kiwoom, Goff just had 50 points. I know. I get it. I totally do. But Rush has been sneaky good, and he's got a really good opponent this week. Tampa Bay has been really they've been a middle of the road matchup for quarterbacks, but a very easy matchup for wide receivers. So where does it fall? Well, I think it's going to fall in favor of the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football and in favor of Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush last week had his best game for us in fantasy football. QB9, 214 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. He finally had a game, first since week 12, where he had over 60% completion percentage. So he was starting to get going a little bit more. Now, am I going to believe in the Cooper Rush tools? No, not necessarily, but I will believe in the Cooper Rush weaponry. CeeDee Lamb is looking like he's catching fire. And then, of course, Brandon Cooks is back, Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson is back, and Rico Dowdle has been running the ball awesome. Rico Dowdle's been a really good play. Rico Dowdle last week was a top 10 play. Well, this week he is as well. But we're not talking about Rico Dowdle. So I want to throw that out there just because I got some love for Rico. It's nice to see a guy like that come out of nowhere and start helping out, helping the boys out. But Rush in and of itself, like you look at the analytical profile, nothing really sticks out in a strong way. Nothing really makes you super confident. That's why I don't have him as a QB1. So in our super flex leagues, you might look to play him in a pinch. Let's say you said to yourself, I'm not playing, Justin Herbert in that tough matchup. I'll see how it plays out Sunday. Or I'm not going to play Russell Wilson in that tough matchup on Saturday. I'm going to wait till Sunday. And now you're trying to scramble. I'm saying Cooper Rush could be that fill-in for you in your QB2 type of spot. Like I said, I have him as a QB2 at QB 14 overall. And all my rankings, as I talk about them today, reflect the updates post the 3 games. So we're talking about rankings that, if you want to be honest, like Cooper Rush is probably closer to QB 17 after I removed a bunch of the quarterbacks. But the rankings I talk about are going to reflect what we see here after all the games have been removed. So Cooper Rush, I want to talk about him briefly. And I'll make the rankings talk kind of quick. I want to make sure that we talk a lot about, what we see in the chat in terms of helping you guys with your roster decisions. I want to make sure that we get you primed, ready, game plan, ready to rock and roll for the semifinals. And then, of course, you can come back to the channel, 12 Eastern Standard Time, for the Start or Shit show with some of the legends here at South Harmon. Eric B, T-Rock, Matt Dennis, the young legend, come back. But the next quarterback that I got to talk about today, how can I not? Michael Penix Jr. We will be inserting that Penix deep within our rosters today, or will we? Or will we? I, however, do not believe I will be inserting Michael Penix into many lineups because I'm at QB 15. I love Michael Penix as the prospect, as the dynasty asset. But in terms of starting him this week, I am a bit nervous. So the Falcons have made the switch entirely. They're talking about they're going to cut Kirk Cousins before St. Paddy's Day to avoid that roster locking up. So it is the Penix show going forward. So Michael Penix Jr., I think he's going to fit in nice. This offense is good for fantasy. The only player in this offense that hasn't really fired is Kyle Pitts. Sorry, Fizz. It's Kyle Pitts. He sucks. But maybe Penix can resurrect it because Bijan Robinson, top 5 running back. Drake London, top 10 wide receiver. Darnell Mooney, top 25 wide receiver. It's really not just Kyle Pitts showed up, and you got to commend him for it. He has tied his shoes. He's put his helmet on. His pads, he looks good. So you got to give him credit for showing up, but he hasn't really performed. Maybe Michael Penix can help him. Why I'm not optimistic about playing him today is, and I might be laying victim to rational coaching and rational team building. I see this as a good landing spot. Home against the Giants. They're not going to have to do a lot to get him a win. Then after that, there's some soft games in week 17 and week 18 for Penix. 3 wins in a row for Penix would be on the table, including a big win next week against the Commanders, where now all of a sudden he's in prime time. This is a good launching spot for a quarterback with this talent profile. And this week, especially, again, I'm banking on rational coaching, smart coaching, and maybe I'm a fool for that. But the Giants' defense, when you look at their statistics, when you look how they pan out, they're a lot tougher on receivers and of quarterbacks than I think a lot of people would be expected. Now, they are very easy to run on. So what does that tell you? If you're looking at rational coaching, you look at the spread, Falcons are giving up 8.5 points at home. This looks like a homecoming game, a homecoming event, a soft landing, a game where Bijan, Algier will run the rock, tote the rock, smash the Giants up front, and just let Penix play more surgical, play more careful in the bounds, in formation, in step, in stride, not really off kilter. So I don't know if he goes baller mode this week, but I do want to bring him up because, of course, he's a talking point around the fantasy universe right now when he's getting the start. I like his prospects over the course of the rest of the season, which is 3 games, not a lot, but heading into next year, I think we could build some momentum and see some good games out of Penix, good play out of Michael Penix. And what we're noticing now, and this is the time to start jotting this down, time to start writing it down, is what's more important, the experience or the upside when it comes to drafting and developing quarterbacks in the NFL, and then inversely how we should value and evaluate them in fantasy. It seems like this year it's been a big step forward for the experienced quarterback. Nick's showing a lot of experience, and it showed. That team's fighting for the playoffs. Jaden Daniels had a ton of experience in college. That's shown, and now they are fighting for the playoffs. And then you have Caleb, who was an early declare. You have Drake May, early declare. Both of those guys, they're not necessarily struggling. We'll talk a lot about Caleb Williams later on the show, but they're not. You're not seeing them excel in a way that you are with the experienced quarterbacks. So I'm excited to see that and how that pans out going forward. Now, we got some things in the chat. Before I dive into the running backs, let's get some of these questions answered. Now, as I said, I know that wasn't brief. I will kind of zip through kind of my talking points here as long as there are questions building up in the chat, because I want to make sure that, you guys, the people that I do this show for, feel ready to rock game plan for their semifinals matchup. Go for this from John. Good morning. Hall or Kincaid this week? Full PPR with a TEP. Hall has been subpar this year. Thank you in advance. Now, John, this is going to sound crazy. I'm going to talk more about Dalton Kincaid when I get to my rankings. But in terms of who would I play, I hate to tell you to play Dalton Kincaid, but I'm going to tell you I'd play Dalton Kincaid. I got Brees at running back 14 in a tougher matchup against the Rams. Dalton Kincaid against the Patriots. That's a pretty good matchup. And I know last week he didn't really fire, but he had a handful of targets. And like I said, I'll get into a lot more of Dalton Kincaid breakdown this week. But in terms of just this question, John, I'm gonna go Kincaid here, especially with that full point TEP there. Jason, Tua or A-Rich in a 6-point per passing touchdown. It's very close for me. I got Richardson at 9, Tua at 11. My gut has been telling me that San Francisco Dolphins game is going to be an offensive shootout. You have Kyle Shanahan, the master, versus Mike McDaniel, the apprentice. And a side note, if you're a reader and you like to read about football, this isn't for Jason, this is for everybody who's tuning in. The reason is why, I don't know, I can't remember the exact title, but it's written by Michael Silver. It's about the Shanahan coaching tree and how they've kind of changed the game. They dive into McVay, dive into McDaniel, of course, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, how that all materialized about halfway through the book. It's a fantastic read. I cannot recommend it enough. But in terms of this game here, I'm going to go with Richardson slightly. But if your gut at all, Jason, is leaning towards Tua, go with Tua, because I have them only 2 spots difference in my rankings. And my gut is telling me that game, San Francisco versus the Dolphins in Miami in South Beach, is going to be a shootout. So if you want me to be, I'm going to say Richardson based on my rankings. But if your gut at all, Jason, leans Tua, go with Tua. Tebow's a legend. Tebow is kind of a legend. I saw him on Sports Center, and he's pretty funny actually. Tebow is kind of a legend. I've always liked Tebow. Anyway. Need to start 1 half-point PPR. London, JSN, or Neighbors. You're going Neighbors. Absolutely go Neighbors here, Mr. Tebow, because I do this little thing. I call it the cuck score. Cornerbacks under constant chaos. And this week, Malik Neighbors, he kind of pops in the model against AJ Terrell. He's projected 15 fantasy points on Sleeper And based on this model, it looks like he is going to exceed that 14 points. And with that being the case, I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors. I have him ranked at wide receiver 2 this week. So I love me some Malik Neighbors. Jordan, happy holidays. Happy holidays to you as well, Jordan. Kyler Murray or Aaron Rodgers? I'm going to go with Kyler Murray. I like Murray this week in a soft matchup against the Panthers. Number 4 quarterback in my rankings. 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. Judy, Ridley, Stevenson, Rashad White. But you're already starting Bucky Irving, half-point PPR. I like Rashad even in this matchup. I mean, they've been able to roll out both running backs quite seamlessly, but I do love the call playing Irving. I got Irving at running back 13. I don't love Stevenson this week. Gibson's just looked better, quite frankly. And at this point, I'm up here in New England. It sounds like these guys are starting to coach for their jobs, and they need some wins. They need something on the field that helps them and helps them look like they know what the hell they're doing. And I start to wonder, I start to think to myself, could we see a situation where Gibson gets more touches, where Gibson's just on the field more? So I don't like Stevenson there, so I'm not going to play him. I'm going to play, let me see where I have Judy. I have Judy at wide receiver 30. I just don't like DTR. I just think DTR stinks. I think DTR sucks, to be honest. I just don't think he's a good quarterback. Ridley, I have him only 1 spot higher. I'm going to go Rashad White and go with the double dip on Sunday Night Football. And I'm going to go with Judy. I'm going to go Judy and just kind of hope that shitty secondary allows him to get open deep. So I'm going to go with Judy. I'm going to go with Rashad White. Even though you're already starting Bucky Irving, it's worked out. Half-point PPR pick 2 from Patrick Taylor, Marvin Harrison, Tyrone Tracy, Josh Downs, Tank Bigsby, Gooner Boy. Isn't it absolutely insane that we're talking about Marvin Harrison in the same group of these players? This is how much of a bust he's been this season. But having said all of that, I'm going to go with Tyrone Tracy and Marvin Harrison Jr. In that there. T-Rock's in the building. We here. Let's go, T-Rock. My man. Delirious. Jaden Daniels or Kyler Murray, 6-point passing TDs. One of my receivers is Terry. Do I go the stack or the non-stack in case Washington can't do anything? I will say I have him back-to-back in my rankings day. So if you love stacks, go with it. But I think the matchup is risky enough that I would not stack it. I think the benefits are there. Obviously, we all know the benefits of stacking, but Kyler Murray, good matchup, great matchup. And there is a chance that, this secondary in this team, and the Eagles have been the best team in football lately, to be honest. They could just come out and beat the living dog shit out of them a little bit. So I wouldn't go with the stack. I would go Kyler Murray, but if you just love the stack, I have him. I just need you to know I got him back-to-back in my rankings, 4 and 5. So I don't think it's a bad process to go with the stack. Pick 1, half-point PPR, Patrick Taylor, Jerome Ford, Spears. If Pollard doesn't go, Kendre Miller or Rashad White. For me, I'm going to go with Rashad White. But I'm actually going to talk about 2 of these guys here in a second, Gooner. So why don't we just use that as the perfect segue point to talk about some running backs? Because I have 2 running backs that I'll talk about briefly here, and then we'll get back to the chat questions because, like I said, Week 16 is not about me. It's not about me yapping, talking about my process, my takes. It's about helping you guys game plan for the semifinals. But the first running back that I do want to talk about is Jerome Ford. Now, I got Jerome Ford this week ranked at running back 21. I'm not overly optimistic about Jerome Ford. The matchup is pretty solid, top 12 matchup. The Bengals give up about 1.3 points over league average to running backs, but they don't give up a lot to running backs in the passing game. And that could be a problem for a guy like Jerome Ford, who isn't the best between the tackles rusher, but he is a pretty good pass catcher. And overall, you look at his analytical profile, it's pretty solid. I think he's had a really good year. And then earlier in the season when there was no Nick Chubb, he had some good games, but the problem with Jerome Ford was a lot of his production, if you can remember, came in garbage time. It came in comeback mode. It came late at the end of the game. It wasn't until last week, Week 15, where he actually broke out and looked the part early. Now, I guess even that you could say garbage time because the Chiefs had a grip on that game quite early. But he is coming off a game last week, 7 carries, 2 catches, over 100 total yards from scrimmage, did score a touchdown, running back 9 on the week. This matchup, though, it could get out of hand. That's why I do think Jerome Ford is a pretty good play. That's why I do have Jerome Ford safely in my running back 2 range. I do think that he can kind of come on late, even if he's not rushing well early. So it's one of those you might have to sweat it out in the first half. But if the Bengals kick the shit out, because remember, now the Bengals have a path to make the playoffs. Can you believe it? So they're going to come out guns a-blazing. And they're going to come out trying to rock and roll. They're going to rip their divisional opponent limb from limb. So there is garbage time opportunity for Jerome Ford. That's why I have him ranked, like I said, safely in my running back 2 range. So I do like him this week. Gooner Boy, I'm talking to you, so he's definitely an option. The next guy I'm going to talk about is Kendre Miller, another option of yours. Not a good matchup against the Packers. The Packers are 20th matchup for running backs. They do give up some passing down stuff to running backs, which could be good for a guy like Kendre Miller. No Alvin Kamara. Kamara has already been ruled out. Kamara's probably going to miss the rest of the season. And we've seen not a lot out of Kendre Miller this year. There's nothing, obviously, you can sink your teeth into analytically. He hasn't had a big enough sample size. But if you've watched him play, you've seen him run tough. You know, he's a good rusher. He has the requisite size to be successful in the NFL, 5'11", 215. You know, he was a mega producer at TCU. And we've waited a long time for this. So I'm excited to kind of see. I'm not playing Kendre Miller if I can help it. I have him at running back 26. I'm playing guys like DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson, Rachaad White, Jerome Ford. I'm playing all those guys over Kendre Miller, but I do like, as a football fan, I am happy to see Kendre Miller play in the game against the Packers. It's just a tough matchup. Monday Night Football. Now, could he get 6 receptions? Yeah, of course. Of course he can, but so could Jerome Ford, so could Rachaad White. All the guys in that range have that type of upside. I just don't like his matchup against the Packers. And it just feels like Monday Night Football, do you want to really kind of, I don't know. I'm not going to sweat it out. Like I said, if you need him, if you're desperate in the flex situation, he's worth it. And even in like seasonal leagues, if he's a free agent, he's out there, pick him up, put him on your bench. You know, put him on the roster, see how it looks, because he definitely has that type of upside that you definitely don't want to see your opponent, especially heading into the championship, potentially rostering. Let's get back into this chat. Monkey Pack, hey Matty, PPR flex, Mooney, Downs, or P. Taylor. I don't particularly love Mooney this week. After last week, he spurned me. I'm wide receiver 41. I'm actually going to go with Patrick Taylor. Here. Eli, Metcalf, or Thielen, Etienne, or Patrick Taylor. I'm going to go Patrick Taylor, and I'm going to go DK Metcalf this week over Adam Thielen. I like Thielen. You know, I got him at 27, but I love DK this week against Minnesota. You can totally exploit this secondary for this Vikings, and Geno Smith is ready to go. He will play. So I'm going to go with DK Metcalf. Dylan, what's up, Dylan? You got to sit one. Dowdle, Chubb, Bucky, or JT. Holy shite. Jesus Louises. My gosh. My Atlanta. So I'll just give you my rankings, and then you make the decision based on that. So based on my rankings, I got Dowdle at running back 10, Hubbard at running back 11, Irving at running back 13, and Jonathan Taylor at running back 15. So per my rankings, I would sit Jonathan Taylor. But with these, let me see just these settings real quick. Not quite a full point PPR, but you do get a point for rush attempts, so that does help. I might sit Bucky, actually, in this format. I would sit Bucky in this format because even if the efficiencies aren't there for Taylor, which is why I have him at running back 15, he's going to get all the carries. He's going to get a shitload of carries, and that might help you there, Dylan. So I would sit Bucky Irving in this format because we know Chuba's getting all the touches. We know Dowdle's getting the touches. We know JT's getting touches. I expect Bucky to get enough touches to be productive. I'm at running back 13, but I really like his efficiencies more than I like his workload. So for that reasons, in this actual scoring format, let's sit Bucky Irving. I can't believe I'm saying it, but yeah, let's set Bucky there, Dylan. What's going on, Juan? Kendre Miller or Rachaad White in PPR? I'm going with Rachaad White. Okay, Dylan, that was a good question. So I'll answer one more. Sit 1 in half-point PPR. I am sitting ETN in half-point PPR. Toughest call for me today, last flex spot, full PPR, half-point TEP, Spears, Njoku, or Ogunze. Well, I'm not – it seems like – I don't know about Njoku. Last time I checked, it was still very much questionable. I'd probably take him off the table. Don't love either one of them. If Pollard plays, I'm going to go with Dunze. If Pollard doesn't play, you go Spears. If Pollard plays and Njoku plays, Castle Black, why'd you gotta do this to me? Why you doing this to me? All right. Let's just brass tacks here. If Pollard doesn't play, go Spears. If Pollard does play, you're going to go with the Dunze. I have a gut feeling about Dunze. Michael and Bar. Oh, my man, Mike. What's up, Mike? 2, I got a good and an ugly. First, Burrow or Daniels. I'm going Burrow. I think Burrow lights it up today. I think Burrow absolutely lights the world on fire. Then there's this. Cooper, Coker, Pop Douglas, half-point PPR. I'm going to do something very appropriate here, folks, but I'm going to go with let's start a business. Let's go with Jalen Coker. I can't believe I just did that on a stream. But yeah, Michael, let's go with Jalen Coker. I like Coker this week. What he provides to this offense, that deep threat, that ability to go deep in, they're getting trust. They're trusting him to make those plays. No Xavier Legette today. Arizona's secondary has not been overly strong, so let's go with Jalen Coker. Vito, pick 2, McLaurin, BTJ, Devontae Smith, or Thielen. We are 100% going with BTJ. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We are for sure playing the big man, Brian Thomas Jr., potentially the wide receiver 1 in this class. I don't know. We'll talk about it, though, in a second. And then I am actually going to go with Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith has the 4th highest cuck score this week, projected about 13 points. We expect him to crush that 13-point mark. I do like Pop Douglas was the other question, but Devontae Smith and BTJ for me is what I'm going to go with. Mason Rudolph or AOC in a 6-point passing touchdown. Woof. Let's see here. Jacksonville, Indy. I'm going to go. I'll go with AOC. Yeah, I'll go with AOC. They're back-to-back my rankings. I just think the matchup's a little bit better. So let's go with AOC. A-Rich or Penix Jr. I'm going to go with Richardson here for sure, Eric. Start 2 of these. D-Wags. Oh, dogs. Sorry, Chris. Sorry. Hall, Rashad White, Tracy, or Kendre Miller. You're starting 2. I'm going to go with let me just confirm this for sure. It's close. But I'm going to go with White, and I'm going to go with Breece Hall. White and Breece Hall. All right. There's still something more in the chat, and we will get to them momentarily, so stick around. But we have to talk about a couple of wide receivers. The first wide receiver that I want to talk about today is someone that I just mentioned him. I'm going to talk about him in the context of this week, and I'm also going to talk about him in the context of Dynasty later in the show. But first, let's talk about Brian Thomas Jr. He's going to go against Jack Jones. Jack Jones has been a pretty decent cornerback this year, but it doesn't matter. Brian Thomas Jr. has been one of the most dominant, most explosive wide receivers in all of football this year. He's proven to be good with the ball in his hands, 4th highest yards after catch this season. He has a pretty good target share. He's always around over that 20%, but over the last couple of weeks, it's been in the high 20s, which is what we like to see. And even with Mac Jones last week, against a tough matchup, Sauce Gardner, he ran 46 routes, which was his high on the season. He had 14 targets, which was his high on the season. 10 receptions, 105 yards, 2 TDs, wide receiver 4 on the week. You know, his head coach, Doug Peterson, said we want to get him involved early, get him involved often, and they did that. He's officially jumped into the alpha wide receiver 1 conversation. Over the past 3 weeks, 10 targets, 12 targets, 14 targets, which is just a far cry. I know that just when you look at the span of games between week 8 and week 10, 4, 4, 3, it was embarrassing. And then starting after their bye in week 12, coming out week 13, 10, 12, 14. So it's wheels up for Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas has the 2nd highest cuck score on the week. He's my top 15 wide receiver for me on the week. He's wide receiver 13, and he's just been an absolute beast this year. So we're not shying away from Brian Thomas Jr. in the semis one bit. And the next wide receiver that I did want to talk about is actually a wide receiver that isn't on many radars, but if you are in desperate need of a flex play, this is someone you can turn to. Wan'Dale Robinson Jr. So believe it or not, Wan'Dale has gotten a lot of targets. He has 111 targets, folks. That's the 11th most in the NFL amongst qualified wide receivers. Crazy. I mean, he is wide receiver 42, wide receiver 47 on a points per game basis. The statistics aren't there for fantasy, but the volume is there. The volume has absolutely been there. And he's in over the last two. This isn't this isn't like recency bias. This isn't early part that it's faded. This has happened early, and it's happened throughout the whole season. He started the year with 12 targets. And then over the last 2 weeks, 20 total targets. Now, he's only caught 8 of them. That's not good, but that's more or less when you look at these last 2 weeks, the air yards have shot up for Wan'Dale. This is a guy that was routinely getting 10, 20, 30, couple of spike 40 air yard weeks, 95 and 81. So they've launched the ball deep to him. They bring those air yards down just a smidge. All of a sudden, those 10 targets converts to 8 receptions, converts to 70 yards, and now all of a sudden you've made your day. And when you look at the Cuck score this week, this was a guy that popped in the model. This is why I wanted to bring him up. He is the 7th highest Cuck score. He's projected to go against D. Alford, who's been a doormat for wide receivers this year. And Wan'Dale has a chance to absolutely smash his, just around 10-point projection. He has a chance to smash that. So if you're in need of a flex play, if you need a guy that has probably a 10-point floor but has a 15 to 20-point ceiling, I think Wan'Dale Robinson's the guy for you. Now, the analytical profile is not exciting. This isn't the play. The play is the matchup, the opportunity, and the volume. Quite frankly, the volume that we've seen from Robinson this year. So Robinson is a flex play for me in a lot of formats. So I'm actually let's speed through the tight ends, and then we'll get back into some questions, and then we'll do WoRP, and we'll get on out of here. So next, the tight end I want to talk about is Dalton Kincaid. So Dalton Kincaid was a question early on. Hopefully you're still tuning in. He's gotten a lot of deep targets, a ton of deep targets. Now that's led to a lot of unrealized air yards, which stinks. But against a team where the Patriots aren't a great matchup for receivers, but they're a top 12 matchup for tight ends. They give up almost a point more than league average to tight ends. And last week, his first week back after missing about a month of games, 7 targets. He caught only 4 of them. But again, they're throwing him the ball deep a ton. But the reason why I like Kincaid in this matchup, as he gets healthier, last week, he only played 50% of snaps. He was only on the field half the time. But being on the field half the time, he warranted 7 targets from Josh Allen. Meaning Josh Allen feels safe. He feels good throwing the ball to Dalton Kincaid. And in a good matchup this week, this is the week where we see Dalton Kincaid. If he's got 7 more targets, he can catch 6 of them for 70 yards, maybe score a touchdown. He's been, right around tight end 15 almost every week or every other week for most of the season. We want to see a smash game here. We want to see a big game. He hasn't had a big season. I mean, he's no doubt a bust this season, considering where you had to take him. But 66 total targets, even with missing games, that's made him the 12th highest target getter for tight ends. And like I said, he's missed games. The target rate is through the roof. It's the 4th highest. The air yards share, all those numbers, they are telling me that he is going to have a big game one of these next 3 games. And this week against the Patriots looks like it could be that week. That's why I got him at tight end 11. And that's why if you're streaming or if you were smart and avoided the Kelsey pitfall of yesterday and avoided the Pat Frymuth pitfall or avoided the Mark Andrews pitfall and you're looking for someone and Kincaid's available, you can get your hands and get him in your lineup. I'm going to go with Kincaid. Now, the next tight end, I just wanted to bring him up briefly. Ben Sinnott. Now, it looks like Ertz is going to play, but he keeps getting injured, and we just haven't seen Sinnott get any opportunity. I was hoping maybe we would see some today. I'm not playing him. I have him at tight end 27. He's not a play for me, especially in the semis. He was just someone I wanted to bring up briefly, someone that we could potentially keep our eye on to see if the usage went up. Last week, he played over 50% of the snaps. That was because of the Zach Ertz injury. And I was just wondering if maybe that was the launching pad for a rookie that we were excited about. Second tight end off the board in the NFL draft last year. But I'm not playing him just quite yet. It's just one of those things that if Zach Ertz didn't play, I probably would have been saying he's a nice streaming option. But it looks like he is going to play. But I wanted to bring him up briefly because this is a guy that's been completely forgotten about. And yet, Ben Sinnott is someone that we were excited about just a few months ago. So I wanted to bring him up briefly. Not much to really sink our teeth into for week 16 for the semis, but somebody who in Dynasty we want to make sure that we keep an eye on, keep a little bit of keep thinking about in the back of our heads at least. Let's get into some more of these questions here. I see them piling up. I love it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Dylan, what's up, Dylan? Playoffs, baby. Hell yes. Hell yes. Full point PPR in different leagues. 3 separate questions. Okay. I got you, Dylan. I got you. Start 1 running back, 1 flex between Abdullah, Madison, Spears, Adunze, Strange. I'm going to play Adunze in the flex, and I'm going to play Madison in the running backs. 1 tight end, Strange or Henry. I'm going to play Strange. Run 1 running back, 1 tight end. Walker or Ford, Ertz or Chigakonku. We're going to go with Ertz, but I don't like either of those tight ends, quite frankly. But I'm going to go with Ertz. And then of the running backs here, I'm going to go with Jerome Ford. Merry Christmas to you as well. And Merry Christmas to your family, Dylan. Kyler on the road has been bad. Yes, he has. But this matchup is too good, guys. It's too good. Tua or Penix, I'm going to go. Battle the lefties. I'm going to go with Tua here. Patrick Taylor or Calvin Ridley, I am going to go with Patrick Taylor. Good letting the show. Yeah, well, don't jinx me, dude. You don't be throwing this evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't be throwing this evil on me, Ricky Bobby. As long as we can keep the title in America, I'm good with the results. Let's do it. America. Fuck yeah. Start 2 running backs in a 1-point PPR league. Kendre, Tony P, Patrick Taylor, Madison, and then a flex question. So we'll do the running backs first. 2 running backs, Tony Pollard if he plays, and Patrick Taylor. If Pollard's out, you're going to go with Kendre and Taylor. And then flex, Laporta, Dubes, or any of those running backs. Ooh, I like Laporta. I do like Laporta. If you have any TEP, I would go Laporta. If not, I would probably go. I like Dubes too. Next. I'm going to go Laporta. I'm going to go with Tony P. And I'm going to go with Patrick Taylor. Jaden Daniels, Barkley, Chase. Devontae. Or Chase Brown. Devontae Adams. Okay. That's the starting team. Let me see. Bench has Addison, Devontae Smith, Pacheco. We can't play him. Chuba. Caleb. Any changes? Nope. No, you're going to keep it the way it is, my friend. What's up, Donkey? Ford, Ridley, or Metcalf. Let's go. If it's half point PPR, go with Jerome. Full point PPR, go with Metcalf. Ben, what's up, Ben? With the beanie, looks like a lobster. Dude, brother. Well, you know I'm from the Cape, so it's possible. The beard's looking grizzly. I got to go get a haircut on Tuesday for the Christmas stuff, you know. Pick 2 in PPR scoring, Judy, Dubes, Mooney, Christian Watson, leaning Dubes and Mooney. Definitely Dubes, like Dubes there. I would go Judy over Mooney. Am I starting Njoku or Strange? I am going with Strange. Brenton Strange for me. With Ken Walker off the injury point, just plug him back in over the likes of Swift or Ford. Definitely over Swift. Let me see about Ford, though. How did I rank that? I am going to play Ford, Walker, and then Swift. That's how I rank those 3. DST question. I nailed the DST questions last week. Holy shit. Nailed it. Colts, Lions, Atlanta. I don't love the Atlanta because neighbors could catch 2 touchdowns, and that kind of breaks your day. Lions are just so beat up. I'm going to go with the Colts. Hit the like button. Yes, baby, hit the like button, folks. Hit that damn like button. Patrick Taylor or Calvin Ridley, full point PPR. Mike, I'm going to go with Patrick Taylor. Start 2, full point PPR, K9, Kendry, B-Rob, Sharbs, or Patrick Taylor. I am going to go with B-Rob, and I am going to go with Patrick Taylor. PPR, 2-point tight end premium, Pittman, Madison, or Bellinger. Well, 2 points per tight end doesn't matter if you get 0 looks. I'm going to go with Pittman here. AOC, Mac Jones, or A-Rich. Crazy that this is where A-Rich has landed this season, but I'm going to go with A-Rich here. Pick 2, tiered, half-point Amir, Patrick Taylor, or Wandale. I'm going to... Okay, so it's tiered based on... Okay. I'm going to rank these Wandale, Patrick Taylor, and Abdullah. Kendre Miller or Brenton Strange in the flex. Brenton Strange. I love Strange this week. Got him at tight end 5. That target share, that volume was unreal last week. Unreal. I'm going to chase that. Half-point PPR, Tracy or Rashad White. I have them back-to-back. I hate to say it. You got to have to make it. I can't help you here. I got Rashad White at 18, Tyron Tracy at 19. So if you want to just go with my rankings, I got Rashad White 1 spot ahead. All right, let's dive into some WoRP here, and then I'll see a couple more. And, of course, I'll answer more if more questions do pop in. But I want to talk about WoRP. WoRP, if you're not familiar, WoRP is a wins over replacement metric, similar to how baseball uses WAR. How valuable are players relative to the replacement level? It transcends position, so you can kind of get a feel for who's more valuable at running back, if it's the running back 15 or the wide receiver 30 or the tight end 5. It gives you a nice barometer of value across the fantasy landscape, and where you can find it is at southharmonff.com. Now, even at the end of the year, I know it's the end of the year, but you can get it for the last month of the season for $7. And that $7, if you are in the semis and in the championship, will help you get that wins. Also, inversely, if you play Dynasty, get it now, because these are the moments where you can take advantage of, you can kind of leverage desperation at this point of the year, even right after the season, as people recalibrate. Time for you to dive in. This WoRP metric allows you to get a nice feel for the members in your league, because the best part about our WoRP tool, and shout out to Coop, the legend, to build this, it actually reflects your league on Sleeper. And if you don't play on Sleeper, that's okay. Create your league on Sleeper, a dummy league, and then boom, you'll get all the information. You'll see how valuable every player is in fantasy football according to your league settings. So I went through, looked at the charts, looked at the graphs, and came up with three takeaways, I'll say, about WoRP this past week. And I'm going to share with you guys this right now. First takeaway that I came after looking at the WoRP is CeeDee Lamb has absolutely cemented himself as a high-end dynasty wide receiver. And the reason why I say cemented himself is this. Throughout his career, obviously, he's been good. This hasn't really been, we weren't necessarily nervous about it. But, this season especially, no Dak for most of the season. And he's the 12th overall player in WoRP. Dak has been out for most of the season. He's played with Cooper Rush, and he's still the wide receiver 7 on a points per game basis, the wide receiver 4 overall. And when you use the WoRP tool, which sheds all those things and gives you the true picture of value, 12th most valuable player overall. Doesn't matter position. 12th most valuable overall player in WoRP. 144 targets. He's going to catch over 100 balls when it's all said and done. Only 6 touchdowns, which has kind of weighed him down, but he's already over 1,000. He'll be in the 1,100 range, maybe even more, depending if he has some big games here to finish it out. Still a yak monster. Still, all the metrics are there that you want to see. And he's evasive, explosive. He's awesome. CeeDee Lamb's great. And we don't love to see the starting quarterback get injured, but now we know he's locked and loaded. Dak signed the extension. We love that. Dak got hurt. So you're always like, oh man, is he a product of the connection? Nope. He's a great football player. And he's still young. He's still 25 years old. Next season he'll be 26. Dak will be back. And we're going to be drafting him atop these receivers. It's going to be in the range of the Jamar Chases, Jeffersons, Lambs, Brian Thomas, maybe, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Puka Nacua, those guys. He's going to be in that range. And I'm happy to have seen that. If you roster him in Dynasty, thumbs up. He's bulletproof. Not bulletproof. I'm not going to call him bulletproof with some wood. I'm not going to say he's bulletproof, but this season for me, looking at the WoRP, looking how valuable he is, still a top 12 overall player with Cooper Rush, with some tough games. The targets have been there, the volume's there, and he's just been an absolute freak, great player. And I'm very, very excited for his long-term outlook, even more so than I was, because now I know that if Dak is back and Dak is healthy, this guy is going to continue to be a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy. And even if Dak gets hurt again, we don't have to panic sell. I rostered CeeDee Lamb in a bunch of spots, and I was thinking about panic selling when it looked bleak, when it looked dim, when it looked dark. And nope, I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't, because as it turns out, he's pretty damn good. He's pretty damn good. Now, the next take, I've talked about him a bunch in the show. I'm going to talk about him again. Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. might be the number 1 receiver from the 24 class. And I love Neighbors. I would still take Neighbors over Brian Thomas. But Brian Thomas is, for me, he's the wide receiver 2 in this class. I would rather have Brian Thomas than Marvin Harrison. If the person who rosters Brian Thomas would rather have Marvin, you have Marvin, make the swap, see if you can get more. Screw it. I'm ready to make the change. Where Marvin Harrison has fallen short, Brian Thomas has not. Brian Thomas is a top 25 overall player in WoRP, a top 8 wide receiver in WoRP. He's more valuable than Drake London, JSN, who's come on strong. He's even had a higher WoRP than Malik Neighbors this year. And then Marvin Harrison, wide receiver 36, 80th overall player in WoRP. Not saying he's a complete bust, not saying Marvin Harrison's done. I'm just saying that if we're talking about the number 1 wide receiver in the 24 class, for me, it's still Neighbors. But if you want to say it's Brian Thomas Jr., I'm not going to argue too much. I mean, he's been almost 2 wins above replacement. That's phenomenal. That puts him in a class that you need to have to win a lot of fantasy football games. And if you're sitting at the 106, the 105, depending on the format, and you were able to get Brian Thomas, count those lucky stars. Be very excited, because like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about his week output, his week projection, we've now seen double-digit targets each of the last 3 weeks coming out of the bye. 14 targets last week. Tough matchup last week. Don't care. They're peppering him. And in a similar way that I feel more confident in Lamb going forward, I now feel that much more confident about Brian Thomas going forward. We're seeing Mac Jones throw him the football. Don't matter. 2 touchdowns, 30 points last week. And that can only go up. We haven't seen Marvin Harrison with Clayton Tune, with Joe Blow, with Matty Kiwoom. We don't know what Marvin Harrison will look like with a backup quarterback. But we do know with his starter, he's the 80th player in WoRP. He's not even a top 30 wide receiver in WoRP. But Brian Thomas is here. Brian Thomas is here to stay. Brian Thomas could be the wide receiver 1 in this class. And for some, they might have already crowned the man, but I'm going with Neighbors. I can't quit Neighbors. I love Neighbors. And the third and final takeaway from this week in WoRP segment, it is now the time to sell Caleb Williams in Dynasty. And I love Caleb Williams. I like the prospect. I got a chance to talk to him at the Combine last year, and I thought it was going to work out for Caleb. And I give him a lot of credit. He's held it together in a very terrible circumstance for most of the season. But there were 2 red flags coming out with his landing spot. And both of the red flags are bigger than expected. One being the franchise. The Bears are incompetent. The Bears don't know how to build teams. Their ownership might be the worst in football. There's a lot of bad owners, but they're a pretty bad ownership group. And he is now falling into the pattern, the worst pattern for fantasy. This pattern of keep a coach, draft a quarterback, fire the coach, he picks a new quarterback. Then we start with Mitchell Trubisky going into Justin Fields, now into Caleb. He'll be into his second year. He'll have a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator, and then the following year, does he have a new team builder? Does Ryan Poles get fired? It's not looking good for Caleb Williams. And the second red flag was his makeup. There was questions. We all saw them crying. We've all seen them painted nails. We've all had our assumptions, and we've all made our judgments. And whatever your judgment was, and I don't care if he painted his nails, if he was winning, and I don't want to take that back. I don't care about the painted nails. What I care about is now we're starting to see the cracks in the makeup. We're seeing him slouch. We're seeing him kind of feel like he's giving up on himself. You don't want a player with this skill set to do that. even all that aside, the reason why he's a sell for me, one of my friends, Frank Emirante, shout out to you, Frank, on Twitter, he kind of posted the question, is Caleb Williams another version of Trevor Lawrence? And I thought to myself, yeah, probably. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, was a fantastic quarterback prospect, landed in a horrible spot with the Jaguars, with Urban Meyer, very similar, and then went on, like, I was like, yeah, but is that bad? I wanted to see. I was like, is it bad? What if he's Trevor Lawrence? Who cares? Trevor Lawrence has been QB 12. He was QB 12 in 2022. He was QB 13 last year. Okay, this year is derailed by injury. So, is that bad? No, it's not bad. But right now, if you look at like market indicators like keep, trade, cut, he's still a top 10 quarterback. Caleb Williams is. So for me, you got to sell. And then when you look at his WoRP, he's QB 16 in WoRP. So if the market indicators are suggesting that he's a top 10 guy, but his ceiling is probably top 12, top 13. And this year, with his ups and downs of the year, he's QB 16 in WoRP. Even if you like the prospect, even if you believe in the prospect, and I'm still rooting for him, I hope he can turn it around. I'm a USC guy. I'm a Trojans fan, so I've been a fan of Caleb since he landed in Compton. And, but in terms of the market value, in terms of capitalizing and trying to get some value in return, you got to sell. You got to sell him right now before it's too late. I hate to say it, but Caleb Williams is a sell. When you look at the WoRP charts, it looks even more so with that. All right, let's get into some questions here, and then I'll do my Kiwoom call of the week, and I'll let you go. Matt Jones, who? Matt Jones, start 2, Jordan Addison, Drake London, A.J. Brown, Judy, or J.T. We're going to go London. We're going to go Brown there. Chris, what's up, Chris? Pollard or Ford in the flex? Shakir, McMillan, or DK? I think I have Shakir. Brick. Yeah, I'm going to go Shakir in that question. And the other two, I'm going to go with Pollard if he plays, Ford if he doesn't. Pretty obvious. Sit 2, but need 1 to be a tight end. All right. Brown, Evans, JSN, Smitty, Kittle, or Jonnu. So you need to sit 2, but one of them needs to be a tight end. Dang, this is tough. So I'm going to play Brown. I'm going to play Evans. I'm going to play JSN. I'm going to sit Smitty, and I'm going to sit Jonnu. PPR, DJ Moore or Terry McLaurin? DJ Moore. I think this is the big DJ Moore game. DJ Moore, Jennings, Thielen in the flex spots. Anyone worth sitting for Swift or Kincaid? Okay, so that's what you have in the flex spots. Should you put in Swift or Kincaid? No, I'm going to go with the guys you have. Fizz is late, but wanted to say trust Kyle Pitts, a rookie tight end's best friend. I hope so, man. I hope so for you. Fizz. Sell Caleb, yeah, man. Yeah. My expected return on Caleb Williams, I'm willing to get pretty unsexy with it, to be quite honest. I think if you could move him for a Penix, for a Drake May, plus you're in a good ballpark, but I think probably more realistic, I would trade Caleb Williams for Baker Mayfield and I don't know what the second piece is going to be. It's so league specific. I want to say a first, but the way Baker's played, you could get a first. Probably not, but I would take Baker in an early second. I would take Baker and Lad McConkey. I would take Baker and it's tough to tell. It's always tough to tell league to league. But I would take Baker. I would trade him for Jordan Love plus. I would. You'd have to wait on this. I would trade him for Jared Goff and a big plus at this point. At this point, Caleb's ceiling for me is QB1. Not the QB1, a QB1, but probably the 12-13 range. I don't see a higher ceiling than that. I just don't. I'm not selling Caleb or Marv at their lows. No one wants them unless they're getting an egregious steal. Give them to me until next year. The Bears made Justin Fields cry. Okay. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, yeah, you can hold if you don't want to sell low, but like, I think there's a fallacy on selling low, T-Rock, is that it can get lower. It can go down. If the market indicators meet WoRP, you're not getting him for anything. Meaning, right now, if you look at things like keep, trade, cut, he's QB10. But WoRP would tell you he's way worse than that. And the situation, yeah, it's going to get better on paper, but it's not going to get really better. It's not going to get better because it's the Bears. If you know a Bears fan, they'll ask you. That key rankings, it is a fugazi, but you need some sort of market indicator. Like your market indicators are your leagues, and they're all league specific. But I don't know. I think right now you look at if the keep trade cut has him at QB 10, you could at least prance him around as that. And if you're not getting that, then no, I'm not going to trade him. If your actual value in your league is QB 16, then I'm not trading. But I have a show to do, so that's what I'm going to go off of. A Cliff Kingsbury could really be a breath. It could be. But we thought Doug Peterson would be a breath of fresh air. And like I said, Trevor Lawrence was actually decent 2 years in a row. That's why I thought the comp was better than expected. But then you look at it and you go, it's probably not worth it. Probably not that great. 2-point PPR for tight end, Jonnu or Keenan Allen. Go with Jonnu here for sure. Bench Tyreek for Hubbard, Juwan Jennings, or Jonathan Taylor. Full point PPR. I hate sitting Tyreek because he can just go berserk, but these are good options. I would play Hubbard. I'd play Hubbard. Dylan with the super chat. Thank you, man. You get to the tippity top. Start one, Pollard, Rachaad White, or Devontae Smith. Go with Devontae Smith here. And thank you for the super chat. My choice of Ward or Shadir, assume the top 10 capital, or Caleb. I need to see the team landing spot. I would need to see the team landing spot. If Ward or Shadur goes to play with the Giants and Daboll is still the coach, I don't know. I can't answer that question. Am I taking the re-roll? So if I could trade Caleb for a top 5 pick? No, I wouldn't take the re-roll right now. I wouldn't take the re-roll. I wouldn't want, if I'm trading Caleb, I want to do that. I want a player. I want a player because I don't want to have to predict the future if I'm trading Caleb Williams. Darf Erf Dern Indian Mutkaken. Maybe. I just offer you the 102 today, Matty. Are you taking the re-roll? No, I'm not. Like I said, I'm not taking the re-roll, and I don't want to predict the future. I don't want to predict the future. If I'm trading Caleb, I'm selling for a player that I know or have a strong belief in next year plus. That's what I'm going to do. So I don't want to take the re-roll because I don't think that the class is all that great next year for quarterback. So I'm not taking the re-roll. But I do think Dynasty Barry, DB, that's a good question to bring up because I think a lot of the times in Dynasty, the selling people's brain immediately go to re-rolls. So I think that was a good question to bring up. Thank you, DB, because it's actually brought some clarity into how I would game plan for Caleb. I'm not doing the re-roll. Like I said, I want to get into a quarterback share that I know what they're doing, that they've been performing, their situation is concrete. And on top of that, I want to potentially get into a better situation, or at least a situation that isn't as catastrophic as the Bears, because we were there, we were in Canton, at the shit house. I mean, the shit school. We were watching Hard Knocks, and we were like, damn, this looks awesome. It looks awesome. Well, it fucking wasn't. And I now have lost all confidence in the Bears franchise. And I've also lost a lot of confidence in, these type of situations with quarterbacks. Now, if there was a Jaden Daniels coming out next year, I would definitely take the role, but unfortunately it is not. And we will end with this. It's a Bijan Robinson day. You bet your bottom dollar I got Bijan as running back 1. I want to say thank you to Geist, Ben, Dynasty Barry, T-Rock, Jordan, Fizzle, everyone who's in here today. Delirious. I need some more coffee. Tom's in the chat. Chris, Matt, Charlie, Kenny, thank you guys so much for rocking with us. Dylan, thank you for the super chat. Master Free, thank you for letting me hand out a bunch of my or try German. And T-Rock brings up the most important thing. Merry Christmas to you guys. Happy holidays. Enjoy this time with your family. I love you too, T-Rock. You're the man. Good show. Oh, well done. Again, if you have some more start-sit questions, head back to the channel, 12 Eastern Standard Time. Get the starter shit with my man, T-Rock. T-Rock, you on the show today? Leave in the chat. You on the show today, T-Rock? You've been on that. You've been killing it. You've actually had a pretty good conversion rate in terms of your calls on the show. So if you want to make sure that you got your decisions right, primed, ready to rock, come back to the channel at 12 Eastern Standard Time. T-Rock has got you fucking covered, baby, for the Start or Shit show. head over to southharmonff.com, become a member of the community for South Harmon. Patreon.com/South Harmon gets you at least in the pregame pooper tier. That'll get you access to the analytics, get you access to the rankings, get you access to T-Rock's awesome articles, and all that good stuff. Make sure you're subscribed here at the South Harmon YouTube channel. Like this video, leave a comment. Even if you have a question, make sure you leave it in the comments. I'll get back to it. You can find me on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it, at Matty Kiwoom. We're going to keep game planning, my friends, and I will see your asses back here next week for the championship. Peace. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.